Hey, it's Jack, and this video is called Am I Destined to be Single Forever? Hey, welcome to the channel, or if you're new here, I'd love you to join us. This is a great community to be part of. You can just hit the bell and then tap the subscribe so that you hear of new videos as soon as they come out, or at least a video every week on dating, authenticity, how to be more of your true self, and I'd love to have you with us. So let's get into this topic, because I either get asked this a lot or I hear conversation that is in this direction. You know, maybe I'm just meant to be single in this lifetime. Maybe it's never going to happen for me. Why is it never going to happen to me? For me, it kind of feels unfair because it never happens for me. So, you know, let's just start off by saying, if any of this is true to your experience, like, I feel for you, because this can be really crazy making and lonesome, and can contribute to a kind of soul weariness. And I know that if you're watching a video like this right now, you're probably someone that's putting effort into this territory of your life, and maybe you have for a long time. Maybe even have had the experience that I just can't catch a break. You know, I keep showing up, I keep trying, and that life isn't really meeting you halfway. So if you had that experience, I'm sorry. I know it can be rough. Hang in there. I hope this can help a little bit. So what I want to talk about first is one of the dominant patterns that I see in this territory, which would be something like one significant relationship and then singleness for a long time or a very long time. And one particular aspect that I see in the pattern of had a significant relationship and then I've been single for a really long time is betrayal. So if you had the experience that in a serious relationship, a live-in relationship, or a marriage, that you experienced betrayal, maybe you got cheated on, maybe you got left for someone else, maybe, let's say you're a woman that dates men. Maybe the guy just was really absent, didn't really show up for the relationship, and you were left kind of feeling like you had no choice but to leave, or what am I even in? Because this doesn't even feel like a real relationship. So if you've had any of those experiences, what I would be curious about is whether in your experience you feel like you have healed from that experience. Now, what I'm asking here is a huge order. And maybe there's certain things that in certain ways we never fully heal from. But maybe there's a substantive healing that can take place. And I'd be curious for you whether you think that is. And one of the distinctions I would make in this regard is the distinction between being detached and being non-attached. And what I mean by that is, one answer to the question of betrayal is to close, right? It's to kind of close off. And there's obviously intelligence in this mechanism. The mechanism is there to protect you and make sure that you don't get hurt again. Part of you says, I got hurt so bad, I never want to risk that again. And so you close down. And that might be absolutely necessary in the short term in order to allow you to even, perhaps have the courage to move on, or to leave, or to take care of business, whatever you need to do. But we don't want that in place for the long term, because it's going to close you down to future intimacy, future expressions of your own love, and to receiving love in the way that you probably are designed to. So I'm making the distinction between detached and non-attached, because sometimes when people say, well, I don't really care if I am in a relationship or not, it's actually not non-attachment. Non-attachment is, let's see, I'm curious, I don't know. Maybe I will be in a relationship, maybe I won't. But there's a non-attachment to whether it goes one way or another. That's different from being detached, which is where my heart isn't open enough or on the line enough that I even care about whether I would ever be in a relationship. And sometimes that's hard to get the self-awareness to know which side of that fence you might be on. You might have some sophisticated strategies that have your actual detachment. Perhaps there's a spiritual overlay that has it look like non-attachment, but this is where you've got to get really serious with yourself, and maybe you want to put yourself in the room with someone else, like a coach or a therapist, to perhaps dive in a little deeper and see, what is the true orientation of my heart here? Where am I open? Where am I closed? Where am I closed to possibilities of things that might come in my life? Where have I potentially arranged my life so that I don't have to be in touch with those possibilities? So maybe I've arranged my life so that I'm so busy that I don't really have the time, or I tell myself I don't have the time to be in a relationship. Or maybe I've arranged my life so that I'm so unlikely to meet a potential partner that I don't even have to ask that question. So that's one set of patterns. The other set of patterns I see is that maybe you do have love connections with, let's say again, most of you watching are women and you date men. You have love connections with men. Maybe you have sexual connections with men. There are men that come in and into your life at times, but that nothing really sticks. So in your experience, it's not that there's no men, it's just that maybe there's no good men. Maybe there's no one that wants to hang around or that you want to have hang around. And if this is the case, my curiosity for you would actually be around trying less hard, potentially. If you put a lot of energy into your dating, the pattern that I see is that there's a lot of energy going into dating. Lots of dates are maybe happening, lots of connections are happening, but there could almost be a lack of trust or even a mild or gross desperation that sits under that way of being in the world. It's sort of like, I don't trust that it's going to happen for me, so I try really hard. And by the way, I just want to honor the trying really hard, because sometimes in life it's easier just not to try, right? Or some of us don't even know how to try hard at something. So the fact that you've got that willingness to show up will stand you in good stead. And your edge might be actually learning how to take the foot off the gas and let life arrange things for you and sort of dwell enough in your own experience. You might have to feel some stuff that in that very action-oriented orientation, you're less likely to feel. You might have to really come up against your own limitation, your own frustration, perhaps even your own loneliness, and learning how to cultivate deeper contact and connection with yourself. And that's a whole thing, and it's difficult, and I know from my own experience how difficult that can be. But actually, it's not about you making it happen. It's now about you surrendering and letting things manifest for you. Now, you don't get to control the timing of that, right? Because true surrender is the non-attachment that I was talking about earlier. So true surrender is, maybe I want it to happen and I'm going to see, and I don't know, and I don't give it a particular timeline. I don't make a sort of a bargain with the universe or God and say, well, it's got to happen in the next 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. It's like, it doesn't tend to work like that. There will possibly be an opening at some point, maybe not of your own choosing, where an energy, a person, a connection can come into your life. And if you're more centered and connected to yourself when that opportunity arises, my sense is that you maximize the possibility of seeing where that connection can go. It's a bit like, this takes me back, all-you-can-eat buffets, which I was very fond of when I was a university student, to the point where, rather embarrassingly, sometimes we could eat so much at a Pizza Hut that would be the one meal for a day. But in an all-you-can-eat buffet, after a while, even though I would sometimes push well beyond this point, underscoring my credentials as an Enneagram 7, even though I could push well beyond that point, there's a point of diminishing return, right? There's a point at which actually the next slice of pizza or the next thing on the buffet doesn't give you the same sense of fulfillment, doesn't hit your taste buds in the same way. And this can also happen, I think, in the world of dating apps and lots of fleeting connections or sexual connections, where it can be noisy, it could be almost disconnected or consumptive. It doesn't allow the true metabolizing of an experience, the depth of an experience. And so you're kind of bobbing along on the surface whilst actually you want a deeper kind of nourishment. That's why I'm suggesting the slow down, come back to self, recenter, spend more time with myself, spend more time with my friends, particularly the ones that encourage my own depth and authenticity, and see what comes into my field, right? If I've been used to kind of going out and sort of fishing or hunting or kind of going after things, maybe I'm going to be a little bit more now in my receptive feminine and see, if I stay true to myself, what what is magnetized to me, and what's coming into my field? Where can life meet me halfway? Then the practice becomes a little bit more discernment. So in the fullness of this question, will I be single forever? This can actually be a deep spiritual practice, right? To actually lean into the edge of, I don't need to know. I can be clear that I want this. I can be clear that I'm willing to practice. And my practice might be getting out there and soliciting more dates if I'm in pattern 1. And I've perhaps had betrayal in the past, and this has been very fallow, and I've maybe arranged my life so that there's not that much uncertainty coming in, and I need to open up more to possibility. Or if I'm in pattern 2 and I have lots of sort of shorter connections, maybe I need to slow down so that I can cultivate something that has a different, perhaps quality, a different depth to it. But in both of these scenarios, the practice is the non-attachment. The practice is, can I be with it whichever way it goes? I mean, Krishnamurti used to say, what's his secret? Well, he wouldn't mind which way it went. And that's easier said than done. And it's particularly difficult if you've been showing up a lot in this territory, because now you're like, wow, I've been putting all this energy in, and now you're saying maybe I need to sit back a little bit. But that seems like it could be resignation or defeat. And I'm holding it differently. I'm saying true surrender is not resignation. True surrender is actually openness. It's awareness. It's sobriety in a sense. It's being willing to notice what comes to you, how you show up in it. It's actually slowing down enough so that you can really see what's happening. I'll give you a stupid example of this. Sometimes if I'm on Instagram Reels or TikTok, but more Instagram Reels, I'll see people do things with a soccer ball, that are hugely impressive. And I used to play a lot of soccer in my younger days. And sometimes I have to slow it down many times, and I still can't work out what they did. It's so fancy, it's so quick, right? But that process of slowing down is sometimes what we need when it comes to not just relationships and dating, any area of our life that we're looking to get a different result, or that we know we're struggling with. Sometimes just the real slowing it down, we get to discriminate more clearly and easily. Oh yeah, actually I'm actually sexualizing my needs. I have emotional needs, and I'm translating them into this kind of sexual overlay that isn't actually having me connect to the right kind of guys, because they're connecting to my sexual energy, but my kind of emotional energy and my soul isn't really in the equation. Or, wow, I have this very performance-based way that I date, and it's getting in the way of my own authenticity in my dating. Or I've been really clear that there's a particular type of guy, whether that's physical attributes or a career or mission or just a way that he's going to make me laugh. And I've been kind of slightly hypnotized to a sense that I know how it needs to go. And I'm actually going to put that aside, and I'm going to say, life, you put some things in my path. Let me actually taste some different things. Sometimes we have to mature our palates. If you want to learn to like kale salad, you got to stop eating sugar enough that you can start to habituate to a different taste. And maybe you'll never like kale salad that much. But some of the things that are healthiest for us, right, when it comes to food, initially they don't taste as good as some of the things that aren't. And it can be a similar thing in dating. If you're used to a very quick sexual connection, even if you're not actually sexual with someone, you might have to slow that down and notice a different quality of connection. Or if you've been clear that, I always want to be with a really ambitious driven man, but you've dated a bunch of ambitious driven men and they don't actually show up for the connection in the way that's working for you, maybe there's a different type of ambition or drivenness that's right for you. Or maybe you want to just put that down for a moment and notice if something else is possible. You can always go back, right? You can always re-include a strategy that you've been majoring in. What's harder is to put down a default strategy and try something new, particularly if it creates more of a sense of uncertainty. But from where I'm coming from, there's so much mystery in our dating and relating that the fewest ideas that we have about what it really is going to be or what a particular connection is going to unfold into, I think in general the better, particularly if you're using relationships as a path of awakening and transformation, and not just as a basis of security, which I think most of you watching this are going to be in that camp. So if you've struggled in this territory wondering, will it ever happen for me? I want to be a little bit of the steward of your self-belief to say that the things that might happen for you in this path, if you embrace it most wholeheartedly and we may have to shed some layers, and we may have to push through some fear, and we may have to drop some identity and be with some wounds to do that work. But that's where relationship as path can be its own source of fulfillment and transformation, regardless of actually the result of whether you do or not get into a longer term relationship. And that's worth embracing in my experience. So that's the invitation with this video. Please give it a like if you've liked it. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to know, are you picking up what I'm putting down? Is this making sense to you? What's your experience? Do you have any further questions around this? Leave me a comment. And again, if you haven't, subscribed to that channel and hit the bell so you hear of new videos and live streams when I do them, because you need to be notified in order to know when I'm going live. So thanks for being here. I look forward to hearing your comments. As always, I'm Jack.